Divide and rule, truth needs a fast horse. Let's diving deep into this fascinating concept about how societies end up fractured and controlled in ways that seem almost engineered. It's all about the dynamics of power, honesty, independence, and those who exploit the gaps. Picture a world where divisions aren't accidental, where speaking plainly gets you in hot water, where folks who value liberty can't quite band together, and opportunistic types slide into the top spots. We're going to unpack this step by step, drawing from history and human behavior to see how it all fits together. Stick around, it's eye-opening stuff that might just change how you view the headlines. Before we go deeper into this examination of power, division, and human nature, a quick note. If anything in this discussion strikes a chord, whether it's a historical pattern that stands out or a fresh perspective, feel free to like the episode, share it with others who might appreciate it, and make sure you're following along for what's coming next. Your support helps these ideas reach more people. Now let's continue. Alright, let's ease into this without giving away the full picture. Imagine a strategy that's as old as empires, where those in charge keep everyone else off balance by pitting groups against one another. It's like a game where the players are too busy fighting each other to notice who's really winning. Then think about how risky it can be to call out BS. Folks who do often end up on the run or worse while the smooth talkers skate by. Add in how people who cherish personal freedom and diverse views naturally spread out, leaving room for more controlling types to step in and dominate. And finally, consider the vacuum that draws in personalities who thrive on manipulation, grabbing wealth and influence without a second thought for the fallout. These threads weave a pattern that's repeated across time, hinting at why things feel so polarized today. Intrigued? Good, let's get into the meat of it. Now, diving deeper, let's look at real-world examples of how this plays out. Start with that age-old tactic of splitting folks to maintain control. Back in ancient times, the Romans mastered it during their conquests. Julius Caesar, for instance, fragmented Gallic tribes by exploiting their rivalries, turning allies into enemies so he could pick them off one by one. Fast forward to the Ottoman Empire, where they fueled tensions between Christian Armenians and Muslim Kurds in the late 1800s, setting the stage for horrific events like the Armenian Genocide during World War I. Colonial powers took it to another level. The British in India deliberately amplified religious divides between Hindus and Muslims, leading straight to the bloody partition in 1947, when independence came. In Africa, Belgians in what's now Rwanda and Burundi favored the minority Tutsi over the Hutu majority, granting them privileges that bred resentment and contributed to the 1994 genocide where over 800,000 were slaughtered. Even in modern times, we've seen it in how foreign influences, like Russian operations in Europe, spread propaganda to widen cracks in societies, making unity impossible. It's not always a grand conspiracy, but the effect is the same. Fragmented groups can't challenge the status quo. Shifting to those who dare to speak up. History is littered with cases where truth-tellers paid dearly. Take Socrates in ancient Athens. He grilled the powerful on their hypocrisies and inconsistencies, exposing ignorance, and for that, he was tried for corrupting youth and impiety, forced to drink hemlock. Galileo challenged the church's geocentric view with his telescope findings, got slapped with heresy charges, and spent his last years under house arrest. In more recent times, whistleblowers like Daniel Ellsberg leaked the Pentagon Papers in 1971, revealing U.S. deceptions in Vietnam, and faced espionage charges that could have landed him in prison for life. Peter Buxton exposed the Tuskegee syphilis study in the 1970s, where poor black men were left untreated for decades to observe the disease's progression. Even after penicillin was available, hundreds suffered or died unnecessarily. On the flip side, deceivers often thrive in cover-ups, banding together to protect their interests, like in corrupt organizations where lies become the glue holding things together. It's a brutal irony. Honesty invites punishment, while fabrications pave the way to safety and even promotion. When it comes to folks oriented toward freedom versus those leaning into authority, the split is stark. Freedom lovers prioritize truth, independence, and tolerating varied opinions. They resist centralized control and embrace pluralism, which makes them inherently decentralized and harder to unify. Authority-oriented groups, however, rally around strong figures, even if those leaders bend facts, because they crave order and collective security in uncertain times. Think of how, in insecure eras like economic downturns or cultural shifts, people gravitate toward authoritarian setups for that sense of stability. Globally, we've seen a rise in such systems eroding liberties. Reports show more countries sliding toward control than toward openness, with 37% of the world's population under tightening grips. Freedom advocates openness to dissent fragments them, while authoritarians consolidate under flawed but commanding rulers. This leaves a gap that more manipulative personalities exploit. Speaking of which, those sociopathic types often fill power voids because freedom-minded people shy away from seeking dominance. Studies show psychopathic traits, charm, risk-taking, lack of empathy, are up to 20 times more common in executives than the general population, with estimates of 3 to 20% in corporate leadership. They climb ladders by ingratiating superiors, claiming others' wins, and preying on vulnerabilities, thriving in competitive fields like business and politics. Historically, this echoes in analyses of dark triad leaders, narcissistic, Machiavellian, psychopathic, who extract resources unaccountably, derailing organizations long-term. In politics, they exploit divisions, as seen in various regimes where such traits lead to wealth grabs and reinforced control. Not all leaders fit this mold, but systems reward short-term gains, mistaking ruthlessness for strength. Pulling this all together in themes and analysis, what we're seeing is a systemic loop. Divisions are exploited or created to prevent unity, drawing from tactics like divide and rule that keep power concentrated. Truth-tellers threaten this by exposing flaws, so their targeted research shows societies punish direct honesty more than polite deceptions, especially in toxic setups where cover-ups bond the guilty. Freedom-oriented individuals valuing autonomy over conformity naturally divide, contrasting with authority seekers who tolerate lies for stability. This creates vacuums for sociopaths, whose traits align with assent in hierarchical, competitive environments. Psychologically, right-wing authoritarianism explains preferring obedience, viewing the world as dangerous, needing firm, even deceptive rule. Societally, it leads to instability. Polarized democracies, eroded trusts, rising controls. But it's not inevitable. Patterns arise from human tendencies, amplified by contexts like globalization or insecurity. The core, unchecked self-interest breeds exploitation, while collective conscience counters it. To wrap this up with some poignant words that capture the essence. First, on division, divide and rule. The ancient maxim meaning divide and conquer, used by empires to fragment opposition. On truth, a man who tells the truth needs a fast horse. An old proverb warning that honesty demands escape from reprisal. On power and sociopathy, sociopaths love power. They love winning. If you take loving kindness out of the human brain, there's not much left except the will to win. From Martha Stout, highlighting their drive. Another, the conscience of a people is their power, underscoring how moral awareness strengthens societies against manipulation. On freedom versus control, the problem of setting up a state can be solved even by a nation of devils. From Immanuel Kant, noting how systems pit factions to maintain balance, but warning of authoritarian pitfalls. And finally, why are all sociopaths not in positions of great power? Most are obscure, limited to dominating a few, and end up burned out, failed lives, reminding us their influence isn't absolute. If this resonates, here's my take. Recognize these patterns in daily life and push back. Foster unity among independents, protect truth speakers, and screen for ethical traits in leaders. Build systems valuing empathy over dominance. It's how we break the cycle. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time with more on what shapes our world.